Walmart has expanded its robot workforce. Right to work is under attack in Virginia. That's a good thing. And we'll look at some of the Democratic candidates for president. All that and more as Labor This Week begins now. Hello, I'm Mark Harrison. The Democratic candidates for president are usually presumed to be for the average Joe, the workaday person who goes out every day and works for a paycheck. So let's take a brief look into what some of them have said as we get ready for what looks to be a pretty contentious primary season. Now let's be perfectly clear from the outset. The Labor Network has not, nor do we, plan to endorse any candidates running for office. Our job is to provide you with the facts that allow you to make up your own minds about whom you will vote for. You remember when that's what the news used to do, right? So with that, and speaking of average Joe, former Vice President Joe Biden has proposed that companies who deprive workers of the right to organize unions be criminally prosecuted. Now, Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders say they will pass federal laws guaranteeing the rights of union members to organize, but they stop short of echoing what Biden's position is on the criminal prosecution for egregious acts of businesses denying people the right to organize. Buttigieg has backed the common outcry for a federal minimum wage of $15 an hour and harps on the fact that pay across the board is far too low. Mayor Pete is also not shy about taking on those in the working class who backed Donald Trump for president in 2016, and those that continue to back Trump, saying the numbers might look good and the stock market might look good, but most Americans aren't feeling it. Buttigieg also claims or blames Washington policy, beginning with the Reagan administration, for disempowering workers and their ability to command more from the fruits of their labor. Healthcare seems to divide the Democratic hopefuls, with Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren pushing for a single public health insurance scheme, or so-called Medicare for all, while Buttigieg is calling for a public health insurance plan that allows people happy with their current and union negotiated plans to opt out. Sanders also takes on the loss of pensions, saying that workers who gave up raises long ago to have a secure retirement in the form of pensions, only to have them go away now. And he has said that he will order the Treasury to make low-cost loans available to pension funds in order to pay as promised. All of the candidates in some way agree that the link between stagnant wages, runaway corporate profits, and decades of weakening labor unions through right-to-work laws has caused the current plight and suffering and discontent in working America. We'll be right back with robots and Walmart. Walmart, the world's largest retailer, has said it will be adding 650 robots to its stores by the end of the summer, bringing the total of the corporation's now small army of automated workers to 1,000. The latest AI recruitments made by the Bossa Nova Robotics Company of San Francisco are designed to scan store shelves for low stock items and report to employees who can take action before customers face an out-of-stock situation. One that researchers at IHL Group report costs retailers almost $1 trillion a year. That's hard to believe. The stock counting robots will join the current Walmart fleet of automatons who currently scrub floors and unload trucks. While the company insists that no jobs are being lost to the robots, its workers aren't so sure. Walmart insists the robots lead to the redeployment of employees to less mundane duties. However, employee message boards refer to the machines as job stealers. In fact, a recent report from McKinsey & Company found that half of all retail jobs can be automated with current and existing technology. We'll be right back. There are 327 million people living in the United States, and 40 million of them are living below the poverty line. That's slightly more than 12%. The benchmark to be considered below the poverty line for a single person is an annual income of less than $11,770, while the threshold for a family of 4, including 2 children, is under $24,250 per year. It's not a distinction former Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg has to worry about. As we reported last week, he was dismissed after the mess he made of the Boeing 737 MAX debacle with a golden parachute of some $62 million. What we didn't know at the time was that on the same day his board was deciding to give him that parting gift, 2,800 workers at Boeing supplier Spirit AeroSystems of Wichita, Kansas, were being laid off because of the CEO's incompetent handling of the 737 MAX crisis and the shutdown of the MAX production line. The Spirit Aero has said more layoffs are likely. In Virginia, the Senate Majority Leader Dick Saslaw has introduced a bill to repeal key provisions of that state's right-to-work law, which has been in effect since 1947. Now, just to be clear, right-to-work is bad for unions and workers in general and considered good for businesses that look for states that tout no outside interference from greedy unions. In other words, it's a way for states to say, come on in and pay our people minimum wage. We don't care. Right-to-work laws currently exist in 27 states, Virginia among them. The Ninth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals ruled that public sector unions would not be required to pay back dues already collected before right-to-work became law. Now, this is considered good news for large public sector unions like AFSCME and the teachers' unions, who were sued last year after the Supreme Court ruled that being forced to join a union in the public sector was a violation of their First Amendment rights, a ruling that was considered a victory for far right-wing groups like the Koch brothers and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. FedEx Corporation has mounted a big moneyed campaign to push back on the Teamster organizing drive currently underway at that company. FedEx employees are complaining that their counterparts at rival UPS are better compensated and enjoy more and better benefits, and it's because of union representation. FedEx workers are claiming they are being bombarded with anti-union messages and forced to attend anti-union meetings where they have to sign attendance sheets. FedEx is known to be staunchly anti-union, with only its pilots and a few warehouse workers in Stockton, California, being represented by unions. And a new study reveals that in the last 40 years, CEOs have had a 940% pay raise, while average workers have had a 12% pay raise. I'll be right back with a look at how out of touch columnist David Brooks of the New York Times is with the rest of America. Writing a column in the New York Times, David Brooks says that Bernie Sanders' class war story is all wrong. Well, Bernie isn't the only one, but he and Elizabeth Warren aren't talking since the last debate, so we might never know, but I'm going to guess she agrees, as do Andrew Yang and Mayor Pete, Amy Klobuchar, Joe Biden, and any other politician not running on the stock market gains of the Trump administration. Brooks contends in his column, and rightly so, that wages at the lowest end have been rising faster than those at the top. You know, maybe this guy has a point. I'll bet that the poor devil, who used to wake up from a few hours of sleep between his 2 or 3 minimum wage jobs, now wakes up and wonders how he's going to possibly invest all of that newfound money he has at his disposal. Yeah, because that hefty 12% increase on his $7.25 an hour minimum wage has given him an extra 80 cents an hour to worry about, and the income tax problem he's going to have when he files his taxes. Or perhaps he's thinking about investing in Google. Hell, after he saves that money for 1,000 months, he'll be able to buy a whole share of Google. Is this millionaire columnist for real? This is exactly the kind of thinking that has gotten us where we are in the first place. Because the average person who has had the benefit of a college education and an opioid-free upbringing reads such reasoning and says, yeah, what are these people complaining about anyhow? Wages are way up under this Trump guy. And they are. But any percent times zero is still zero. And with the costs of housing and healthcare and everything else out of reach for a majority of the working class in America, a couple of extra dollars a week aren't going to mean crap. So let's stop steering the discussion toward what the centrist Brookings Institute inside the Beltway has decided and begin traveling into the heart of this country to get the real story. Let's begin a discussion about how in the hell we are going to train workers for the next decade after 30% of them lose their jobs to artificial intelligence. The system is broken for a majority of Americans, and no amount of tax cuts for billionaires and corporations is going to fix the problem. Mr. Brooks states that class war progressivism always loses to culture war conservatism because swing voters in the Midwest care more about their guns and patriotism and ending abortion than they do about proletarian class consciousness. That's what he wrote. Well, I'm betting that's no longer the case because swing voters care more about a life for their families, affordable health care, and a means to pay for their children's futures. What do you think? I'm Mark Harrison. I'll see you next week.